Hi, I'm Jerry Beck, president of Asifa-Hollywood, and we are here with an all-star panel for the great movie Over the Moon. Holy moly, Netflix, thank you. Thank you all. I want to quickly say what a surprise this movie was to me. I didn't know what to expect. It was beautiful. And it's fantastic. I didn't even know it was a musical, to be honest. And it's a fantastic musical. It's a Broadway musical. Uh, Let me introduce, if you don't see their names on there, we have, I guess everybody can raise their hands. We have Gennie Rim, producer. We have Peilin Chou, co-producer. Celine Desrumaux, okay. Head of character animation. Sebastian, wait a minute, let me get this right. Head of character animation, Sebastian Sacha Kapijimpanga. Is that good? Did I do well?
Very well done.
All right. I always like to know the origins of these films like this. This is amazing. I think we should start with somebody like Peilin to talk about how did this movie come to be? What's the beginning of this film?
Sure. So the inception of the film was actually at Pearl Studio, which is headquartered in Shanghai, China. Every year, Pearl Studio has an annual brain trust where thought leaders are brought in from around the world to talk about what's the best Pearl Studio can be, and also to brainstorm and ideate on project ideas and film ideas. In 2015, one of the guests of the Brain Trust was Janet Yang, who's our executive producer on Over the Moon. And she pitched the idea of doing a modern day retelling of the Chang'e myth. Chang'e, the moon goddess, is very famous in China. We often refer that she's more famous than Santa Claus is in most other parts of the world. Every child, every family grows up knowing her. And Janet's idea was to tell the story set in modern day China, but seen through the eyes of a little girl named Fei Fei, who was trying to get to the moon to prove that Chang'e really exists. So that was really the beginning of the story when Janet pitched it to us at Pearl.
Glenn and Gennie, how did you get involved?
Well, I was speaking
do you want
to... Yeah, I was speaking at Annecy in 2017, and it was a talk called Thinking Like a Child, where I just basically shared everything I love about animation, and particularly the kind of characters that I'm drawn to in animating are the ones that believe the impossible is possible, like, you know, Ariel and the Beast. And as I was talking, in the audience is Peilin and Melissa Cobb. Melissa was not yet head of Netflix animation, but in their hand was a script with a character that was like the epitome of believing the impossible is possible in Fei Fei. And so when they afterwards approached Gennie and I to do this film, it was, we were heading in a path of developing a different project, and but the best things in life are a gift. And when this thing landed there, it was like, we were born to do this. I mean, this is just something we could not say no to. That's how I felt. Gennie?
Yeah, I felt the same way. I think reading the script after Peilin shared it with us in the pitch, I think 20 pages in, I was already in tears and was like, I have to do this film. I was just so enamored with Fei Fei as a character, and her story and her journey just touched me so deeply. And I think, Glenn, we would have conversations about Fei Fei, and you strongly felt like you knew this girl, and you loved how she believed the impossible is possible. And then we said, yes, let's do this. So thankfully, Peilin stalked us at after that presentation and was like, please just, read this project. And
I felt
so
like when
thank
Glenn,
you.
I felt like, you're welcome. Thank you. I felt like when Glenn was giving his talk, he was sending me like a secret message of saying like, I need to direct Over the Moon. I want to direct Over the Moon. Just everything he was saying was describing this film to me.
I was just given a note that I forgot to introduce Glenn. How can I do that? So Glen Keane, I think our members all know who he is. So I think I'm forgiven. Audrey Wells, who wrote the script and also the film's dedicated to. I saw Peilin or Glenn. Tell me about the script and what you think of, and what was she around long enough for the beginning of the film? I don't know what happened there. So fill me in.
Audrey got involved with the project really early. After Janet pitched the idea, we developed it with the internal team at Pearl and came up with maybe just a one-page overview of roughly what the film could be about. And that was the point where Audrey came on to the project. And she connected with this character right away. She loved the idea of this little girl that believed in herself enough that she believed she could build a rocket to get herself to the moon. And she loved the idea of this moon goddess and exploring Chinese culture. These were all things that were really, really appealing to her. She wrote a phenomenal first draft script, like probably the best first draft script I've ever read in my entire career. I was blown away by that. And I could tell that the script was so personal to her. And she told me when she delivered the script that it was the most important story she had ever written, which is pretty remarkable for someone that has had such an amazing career. It was about 6 to 8 months after she delivered the script that she shared with me that she knew that she was sick, and she knew she wouldn't likely survive to see the film be completed, but that it was so important to her that this film get made, because she really wrote it as a love letter to her daughter, to leave behind for her daughter to know that the love that they shared would last forever, even though she couldn't be here with her, and also to give her daughter permission to move forward, and to open her heart and live a full life and love other people. And that was so important to her. And Audrey shared that with me in May of 2017, and implored me to do everything I could to get the film made, which I was already fully on board with because I loved the movie so much. And 1 month later, in June 2017, is when I went to Annecy and heard Glenn's talk. So it really was magical in that way. It felt like it was fated. I felt like the universe was telling me this was the path to go. We were really lucky that Audrey survived to see the first screening of the film. And she loved it so much and was so happy. And I think that her spirit, her mission, her passion for telling the story was a driving force for all of us all throughout the making of this film. And that's why the film is also dedicated to Audrey.
Celine, this film, the script, the way it's designed takes us places obviously we've never been, never seen. That's the thing that gets me. I love personally seeing things in animation that I've never seen before. That's what animation can do. What is it called? Lunaria? Lunaria, the moon. That stuff is amazing. Also, I want to say that I know this is Netflix, and I saw it on my biggest screen that I could, but boy, did that look like something that I'd love to see in an IMAX theater. I don't know if that was a thought in anybody's mind or how you'd ever see it in the future, but I can just imagine seeing that in a, eye-filling peripheral vision, thing. Tell us about designing that. I mean, designing that and the color design in that is amazing. Tell me about that.
Thank you very much. I think we would love all see it in IMAX. I would also love to see it in 3D because I feel like that Lunaria is like made for 3D. Well, everything started with like a very simple image from Glen when he told me like, oh, maybe you're too young, but there was this band called Pink Floyd, and they did this music album, Dark Side of the Moon, and I was like, yeah, I know this CD cover. And he said, well, you need to do something as simple and as bold as this CD cover. So we started to all brainstorm together, and there was like a lot of not constraint, but entry, like the moon goddess Chang'e, the fact that she's living on the dark side of the moon, that we don't know what it looks like, the fact that it needs to be colorful. And I think there was this whole reflection about the space. And most of the time when you look at pictures in space, it's kind of abstract. It's just like shapes and colors and clusters of points and dots. So we started to look in the artist and to look for like who could do something like that, who can paint like abstract color and still have this notion of movement and still being like very still. And from early on, we fall in love with Juan Miro, and so we started to put and plug everything together, the mix of Chang'e, the lexic of space, and this inspiration of abstract and color, and it gave Lunaria. It's a fast, in a nutshell, it's how it happened.
It's really wonderful. I mean, the last thing I want to say there is that it's ridiculously colorful, primary colors. It's kind of a characters there are flattish, or they don't have as much detail, but that's anyway. I just loved looking at it, and I could see what you're trying to do to be different from the Earth Girl and boy and the you know, and to really make it look like something we've never seen before, which is great.
I think that's one takeaway I'm taking from the cover of Pink Floyd is like this black. And I remember as a kid, when I was looking at pictures of the moon, it was always like very white and very black. And I think I really want it. It was like a challenge, but I wanted to embrace this black sky on CG animated movie. And there was this notion of, oh, if we're keeping the black sky, the black space, and we say that there's no light on the dark side of the moon, then we needed to find like a concept in the design that will help us to provide some light and color to light the characters. So we take this step to say like, oh, on Earth, everything is reflecting the light from the sun. And on the dark side of the moon, well, all the light will come within the either characters or objects. And the main concept was also, as a god creates his own, everything will come from Chang'e, the goddess. So everything is tied to her, the light, the color, the movement. Like if she stops breathing, then Lunaria will stop breathing. And once we embrace this concept, we just like carry it on through production, and even sometimes not impact, but it influences the storytelling, the way that, or if we keep our word and to be close to the concept of the design, then we need to shoot that shot in that direction or with this character or that kind of thing.
Amazing. Sacha, I'm going to get to you, but I want to talk about the animation. But I have to start with the fact that there's so many different types of, I think, well, designs and animation in here. The obviously the what I call realistic opening and closing, the characters there, the moon creatures. But of course, I have to mention Glen, and I have to mention there's a few places in the film where you do. It looks like hand-drawn animation, and it looks like maybe you did them, I would somehow suspect. And also, one of the shots, one of the early scenes in the movie where they're recounting the legend, what's the technique there exactly? Because it looks like it looks like, and it's supposed to look like, I'm sure, kind of brush. It looks like a brush technique, you know, in terms of the outline, the lines. What are you doing there? What exactly are you
Yeah, what the heck are you doing there, Glenn?
Yeah.
Well, there's that part I did animate, and as soon as I read that in the script, it's like, okay, this has got to be an illustrative version of Changa, because it starts on the scarf and it's got to remain in that world. You couldn't just go to CG version of Changa and Houyi. And it was also very important that it be rhythmically like the Chinese art that I was seeing at, Peilin took us to a museum there in Shanghai. And I just remember looking at the way they would draw, and before you could draw a tree branch, you had to practice calligraphy. And sometimes Peilin even came in my room and showed me how to do calligraphy, drawing over, whatever it is I was trying to do. But that taught me a lot about the authenticity of that character. It was very important that was the presentation of Changa as everybody in China knows her, in her fluidity, in her grace, in her beauty. And so we were going to turn her upside down in this movie. And that was a big challenge. How do you get her back again, to present her back to the Chinese world, and not just present her the way she was, but in some ways richer and stronger. So it was I knew I was going to animate that. And as Gennie knows, I'm a procrastinator. And it was the last thing that we got done in the movie. I think it was the last thing we cut in. Celine was desperate trying to pull that out of me, but there was always something. Usually Sacha was the thing to keep me like busy.
It's Sasha's fault,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it was a real joy to be able to do that hand-drawn animation. There's some animation later on while Fei-Fei's building the rocket that was done by Aidan Terry, who was my assistant on Dear Basketball. So no, he did a wonderful whimsical approach to drawing Fei-Fei and the rocket.
Sacha, so head of character animation, what does that mean exactly in this case? Were you supervising a staff of people, or tell me what that means exactly?
Yeah, I mean, supervising over 100 animators at our peak when we were getting the film done, and our leads as well.
Now, did you work in Canada? Where were you exactly?
In Vancouver, yeah. I moved up to Vancouver in 2010 for Sony Imageworks up here, and we did the majority of. We had a couple animators in LA for a while, but we had most of our animators up here in Vancouver.
I'm looking at. I have questions are coming in from our live audience, so occasionally it's going to distract me, and I'm going to ask you what some of these are. The film is beautiful from an anonymous attendee. Could you discuss the personality arc of the moon goddess, and who knew Ken Jeong could sing? Is there a personality arc of the moon goddess? Is that a
Well, there's something about in animation, you are entertaining people. I mean, that was when Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnson had written their book Illusion of Life. They wrote a really nice dedication to me, but the last thing that Frank said was talking about me. He said, "Oh yeah, entertainer," and he underlined that. And that was really good, great advice to keep in mind the audience. What we do is so much about touching people, and you touch them through entertainment. And entertainment has a scope from humor to tears. I mean, laughter and joy to sorrow. And this film has that. And when you know what the audience is expecting, that's great power for a director. Now you've you know where everybody's going, and you should never deliver what everybody's expecting. Like Fei-Fei's going to launch her rocket to the moon. Boom! She hits that button. One thing you cannot do is have that rocket take off. It's even better if it goes backwards a little bit. That's what you do. And Fei-Fei is going to see Chang'e. It was so wonderful in reading that script that Audrey did that so well, setting you up. And here's this completely surprising version of Chang'e, as our nuclear version of Katy Perry and Lady Gaga and, everything else. And so all the way through that, it was very important that we let her reveal that this is a wounded person, superficial. And then there would be these little glimpses that you'd put in there to see that, Fei-Fei says to her, "You're the one that believed that love never dies." And for an instant, this is in the first meeting, Chang'e is hit by that. It's like the first little peek under her skin. And then bit by bit by bit, we start to reveal that more and more to at the end, where she actually, for the first time, feels for somebody else in the Chamber of Exquisite Sadness. That is really the key to healing that Audrey planted in there, that we can let go of our own pain by feeling somebody else's. And they both end up doing that for each other. It's such a beautiful, beautiful transition. And that's where I say that we deliver Chang'e back to the audience in a way that's deeper and richer and more whole than the goddess on the dark side of the moon that's just longing for Hoyi to come back.
I love that you are the entertainer, and I was going to say that when the rocket launch, I love that little cutaway of the snail. I mean, little things like that are all through the film, which is what makes it great, in my opinion.
Oh, and what makes it great is Sasha's team to animate that little fluttery snail.
That was a pretty late idea, I think, the idea of the snail, right? And I think John Torello animated that shot.
That was great, yeah.
I'm not sure which, I'm sorry, which producer I should ask about this, but the music, let's just quickly talk about that. And it really deserves its own session. The music is, to me, it was jaw-dropping. It's a real Broadway score is the way I look at it. And I was actually surprised about it. And I thought it was sensational. Not to mention, there's so much in that music. We're not musicians here, but I just figured we have to mention it. And if there's, what can we want to say something about the songwriters or the performers?
I'm curious why you were surprised. Can I ask that?
You know what? I just somehow didn't realize it was a musical. That was the reason when I went into it. I just didn't read all the stuff in advance or something. And I was, oh, and not only that, these are good songs and it sounds so great. And I can just totally see this, as like I want the Broadway soundtrack album kind of thing, That's the way I was raised with those. So any comments on your wonderful songwriters? Or
well, Peilin was an incredibly valuable source of there are connectors in animation, those who them and now the world. Both Gennie and Peilin are like that. And Peilin connected us, Gennie and I, out in New York, to some great talent. Peilin, you want to jump in?
Yeah, so Gennie and Glen and Audrey came to New York for a week and met with a number of songwriters that I thought might be great candidates for the film. And at the end of the week, two candidates rose to the top of the pile, and it was Chris Curtis and Margie Duffield, and also Helen Park, and they're separate entities. And we were weighing the pros and cons of each and trying to decide who we were going to go with. And it was Glen who said, well, why don't we just hire them both? which I thought was like the craziest thing I'd ever heard, because you don't usually ask artists that have never written together before to write together, but it really was Glen's instinct and vision that made us pursue that. And we brought them together as a songwriting trio. And I think that the film has so benefited from all of their strengths and their diverging different styles that they bring to the table. And it's the reason why I think the soundtrack is filled with so many different genres of music and so fun. And the film wasn't always conceived as a musical, but when Glen came on board, he really saw it that way. Glen, do you want to pick it up there?
Well, it was as if Audrey had written it with everything that a musical needs, the kind of emotional depth that, how do you put that into narrative storytelling? Because we also have a short run. I mean, it's not like you're doing 120 minutes, you're trying to do a movie in 85 minutes. And Howard Ashman had this incredible way of using songs to really rocket the movie forward and launch it. And in this movie, story, major dramatic points happen within those songs. As Fei Fei's mother, they're making mooncakes and it's a wonderful family. And then in the midst of that, her mother dies and the crisis in her life happens. We have another crisis coming for her, or like in the Rocket to the Moon, that it's in that song, Fei Fei determines how she's got to build a rocket to the moon. It's in that song. And I love songs that launch the story forward. And it was there as we were reading it. It was very clear which were those moments.
Well, speaking of songs and animation, and this could be for Sacha and Celine and Glen, Ted Boyk writes, love the ping pong match sequence. Can you talk a little bit about the inspiration for that and how it was animated?
Celine, you want to jump in there?
I think the first reference I brought for the ping pong sequence was Ping Pong by Taiyo Matsumoto, the anime. And we shared that with the team and to show how it was the dynamism on the split screen. And then it took off with storyboarders, and I guess it also leveled up with the animators. Sacha, Glen, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, Sacha, I mean, this guy, you should have seen how long his hair was at the beginning of the movie. Everything we threw at him, look at him now. I mean, every possible twist and turn and emotional, dramatic action that's in this movie. And Sacha is the most calm person. He never panics. It's like, yeah, okay, let me just say this one thing, and then I want you to talk about ping pong. But early on, I said, Sacha, I really think that we need to hire an actress to play the part of Fei Fei as our live action model, so we can study her, like I did with Ariel, with Sherry Stoner was our actress. And he said, Glen, and he said it in the most respectful way, do you think it would be okay if we don't do that, but that we let the animators film themselves as reference? And I'm thinking, yeah, but there's a consistency to character. He says, yeah, but even more important than that is that the animators feel for everything that the character's going through. And Sacha, as soon as you said that, I thought, man, he is so right. This is the core. That if you're gonna animate something, it's got to be felt by the animator. And so that's the amazing thing that throughout the whole film, Sasha, was that the success of it is because of that choice.
I think that, yeah, that's such an important step. It's almost like it's like the difference between trying to animate something or thumbnailing something first and doing the planning. Like if you have to live through that scene and try to empathize with that character and feel what that character is going through, even if you're not a great actor yourself, and you tape yourself doing it and you do it many times, you'll find those little details that you can pull out of that performance and put it into your work. And it's, I don't know, I think the results are always very interesting, at least. Or sometimes you'll see something that you just don't want to do. Yeah, let's not do that. But yeah, I think it's a great part of the process. It's a part of the process I really enjoy myself. Like I love trying to figure out, you know, the multiple takes and what the pieces of that reference that speak to you in putting that performance together.
In Ping Pong, I mean, that was particularly difficult because the characters are floating, but the animators would approach it with attitude. It was always an attitude that, and it could be a very quiet, demure animator, and she's very quiet, and then suddenly she's up there on the screen showing you this bold, sassy Chang'e. It's like, yeah, that's it. We got to do that.
Yeah, good fun. Oh, Jerry, you're muted.
I know. Everybody has to do that once, right? I thought I'd do it first. I want to ask some questions about the way the world is right now. I'm not talking about the pandemic. I'm talking about the production of animation. How does it working with Netflix? You know, do you get a lot of notes from them, or you know, is it creatively do what you wish? Or what is that like?
Gennie?
based on your experiences of the past?
Oh, it's honestly, it's been incredible. I think working with Netflix and Pearl together, we felt completely supported. I mean, I think that everybody who came to create this film, I mean, whether it's Peilin or Melissa Cobb from Netflix, and everybody just had such a deep investment in making the best film possible,
Right.
and supporting what Audrey wrote and supporting Glen's vision. And you know, I think there was never a moment where we felt at odds or like, oh, we're going to go this way and we're going to do that, you know, but no, we want to go this way. It was always like, let's have a really mindful conversation about like, what are these characters feeling? What is really the story? What is the journey? And, you know, really thoughtful conversations. And I really appreciate it. And I think Glen, we would sit around in his office. He had this couch and this round table, and we would just sit like we were having just this kind of a conversation, just talking through it, and deeply feeling what we wanted Fei-Fei's journey to be. And I felt so supported every single step of the way. I think Peilin, you were just such a great supporter and advocate for Glen and his vision. And you know, whenever we may have a review with, you know, all of the notes, I think it was always like, let's see what lines up with where we want to go collectively. And I think we did this, and we genuinely felt like we made the best film that we could, and supported that. So
And Jerry,
I have nothing but wonderful experiences.
the as an example of that kind of creative freedom and encouragement that we had that was real, that at the beginning you're thinking, well, it sounds really good, but what's reality really here? You know, how's it going to really play out? And we started, I think, like in April 2018, Gennie, of actually making the movie. And
Yeah.
was it by the first week in July or something like that? The
Yeah,
entire film
screening, yeah.
was storyboarded, dialogue recorded, I think pretty much all the songs, maybe one, written. This is unheard of. This would have taken a good year at least or more to get to that point. And then to actually make that version of the movie, I mean, there's changes, you know, along the way, but that was incredibly encouraging that the path that we were going down was the one that we were going to hit. And for Gennie as a producer, I was impressed with how important it was that every dollar spent was up actually on that screen, that there wasn't stuff laying on the cutting room floor as much as possible. It was really, really unique.
So you feel good about the future of this field. I mean, you've seen it change a lot. And we're going through something in the world right now, and yet the movie can be made, and it's pretty remarkable. Is that what you'd agree with that?
Yeah, I felt that what we had done to get to the point before the day Netflix shut down and Gennie said, everybody's got to get out of here now. We all left.
Go.
Go. Yeah, it was like that. We haven't been back since, really. And how we were in training for this. I mean, I had a big monitor on my wall, still there, called The Window to the World. And I got to see Sacha and Celine and our Leo Sanchez in Spain and our set designer in Holland, and work with Peilin in New York. And that just became so natural. So when we suddenly had to all leave and go home, and I came up here, I'm at Lake Arrowhead right now, and I had terrible internet, 0.7.
He wins for like the lowest bandwidth and yet still able to work.
Celine would be talking about some vitally important moment in the movie, and then her face would freeze. And it would stay that way for 20 seconds. And I was like, okay, what is she saying? What is she saying? And then I pick up the end part of the conversation, like, okay, I got really good at gluing these things together, and we made the movie. It actually got done.
How do you feel? I'm talking to everybody, I guess. How the movie will play in other cultures. I mean, it works for me in the United States, as far as I'm concerned, and I'd assume that it plays well in China. But we think it will work in other places. I don't have any clue on that.
I mean, for me, I'll speak to the fact that I think it's dubbed in 33 different languages, which is just shocking to me. Like, wow, that's a lot. You're going for the global reach there. But to me, I feel so like amazed that we're going to be able to tell this story of this 12-year-old Chinese girl who lives in China, and her journey to, like, I believe in this moon goddess. No one can prove me wrong. I'm going to get there on my sheer, like, stubbornness and determination and intelligence. I'm going to get to the moon. And to tell this myth that is so widely known in China, and also this tradition of the Mid-Autumn Moon Festival. It's such a well-known tradition and holiday, but to share that with the whole world, I think is something that's really incredible. And I'm really excited to see how all of these different countries, these different cultures get to embrace this and react to it, and recognize that, like, we have this Mid-Autumn Moon Festival. It's about the moon, this harvest moon that we all share, no matter what part of the world you are. You look up in early October, and you see that same full moon that all of China is celebrating, and it's all about this goddess. And it's such a wonderful thing to be able to share with everybody, and introduce them to this new myth, and this little girl Fei Fei, who I think no matter where you might be, this little girl is somebody you can really relate to, or know, or be inspired by. So to me, I feel like it's gonna hopefully inspire so many people.
Yeah. I've got a couple, we're almost out of time. I see our friend John Andrews is asking me, how was the dubbing of songs handled? And how is that done?
Well, I think, and Peilin, you know, you probably know a lot about this as well. It's just the cast that they select for all of the different languages. They went after, you know, talent that would match the talent that we had in our original. I think in China specifically, they went out after incredible talent to match that same vocal quality and to be able to do the songs. And also just the translation was an art in itself. So Peilin, you can talk about that for China too.
Well, I'm most intimately familiar with China, and I think the challenge of not only finding the right singer, but also, as Gennie indicated, translating the song so that it maintains the integrity of the meaning of the song, still moves the story forward in the way that the original does, and also rhymes is quite a feat to achieve. And I think that, you know, some songs, the lyrics, there is some liberty with them to achieve all of those goals, but the intent, the meaning, the spirit behind it is still the same. So for example, in China, Ultraluminary, the name of the song translated actually means "I am your queen," which is, you know, what the song's really trying to say. But it's not Ultraluminary literally translated into Chinese. So
I have a last question technically, which is a traditional one, if you can answer it, which is particularly Peilin and Pearl and Glen, what's next for you? Do you have projects lined up, or are you working on your next features? Can you talk about it? That's the...
So I will just share that I'm actually a full-time Netflix animation employee now. So I, after this film was completed, I left Pearl, but really excited about their slate and their future still. I'm on another film at Netflix that I can't talk about yet, but very excited for the future of animation.
That's great. And Glen, we all want to know, everybody, I'm talking for everybody in Asifa and all of our members, we all want to know what you're up to. So please tell us if you can.
Well, okay. So there's one thing that's about movie making.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about what you learn from this movie. The way that Netflix is a crossroads of animation to the world. When I left Disney, I remember Ed Catmull said, "Well, Glen, what do you want to do? Where are you going to go?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know, Ed. I want to creatively live without walls." And he said, "Well, what does that mean?" I said, "Well, I know animators around the world, and studios tend to have big walls, but the artists don't. They need to be able to connect. I want to be able to work with people everywhere. Netflix really feels that way. And I love the idea that we now think about countries that you wouldn't think about. I mean, somebody in Ghana could be working with you, somebody in Uruguay. Why not, you know, a little island out there somewhere in the South Pacific? There's an animator. We have a connection now that is absolutely incredible. It's the thing that I think I really was hit with Celine when I first met her, that this was a woman of the world, traveling everywhere. I mean, experiencing life, and yet so focused on animation. I thought that's the kind of person I want to work with. And so I think it's a big part of it is how you make a movie, so much about the way Gennie is constantly encouraging, like working with Sacha, how you really wanted to bring in as much female talent onto this film as possible. And so many of the best moments that you cry from are from a female perspective that was absolutely beautiful. So like I mentioned earlier, I've got ideas that have been percolating for quite a while. And I think that we're developing that now. The idea of doing something with Netflix is certainly what we're leaning into. But who knows? Something wonderful may come towards us that we're not even thinking. Netflix may have something to share. I don't know. I think I've learned that you really got to be open, because the best things in life are a gift, and you want to be open to it.
Well, this movie is a gift, and I can't wait to see what each one of you does next. This is pretty amazing. Over the Moon, Netflix, thank you. Thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Celine. Thank you, Gennie, Peilin, and especially Glen. We appreciate it. And again, thank you very much. That's our Q&A for today.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you.
Jerry.
Thank you.